know that you have insulin resistance and you're metabolically unhealthy. 93% of us in the US are feeling that right now. If it's not you, you may not even know it, but you may have a loved one that's been diagnosed with heart disease, high triglycerides, they're overweight or obese, or they've been diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes. Does that sound like you or somebody that you know? Then this is the place to be today. Guys, I'm Coach Ken. I am the nutrition coach, one part of Healthy Together and Feeling Great. And today we're going to talk about specifically insulin resistance and how to reverse that and how it might reverse other conditions that you are facing in your life. I've got one of the best in the world coming in here to help me talk about this, and we're going to unpack that even more. So we're going to have time after Dr. Kenny talks a little bit about what insulin resistance is, and we'll unpack that in a little more detail right after this. But I want you to hear Dr. Kenny's story and how it changed his life, because just because you look at somebody and they're healthy, you may not know what their story is and what brought them to that place. So without further ado, let's hear from Dr. Kenny.
For my health financially, it took me out of the hospital. I'll show you guys literally what I look like. It still blows my, this was me, you'll see here in a second, in 2024 of February. This was me. I was so insulin resistant, had no idea, 240 to 50 pounds. It put me in the hospital and I nearly died. And when I got out, this was me 35 days apart. I dropped nearly 50 pounds, fatty liver was gone, sleep apnea, AFib. It was just crazy. And I just, honestly, I felt like, man, why would I not share this with people that I know and love, right? And so I want to go through with you now and show you what I saw. And I pray that you see the same thing that we do. Now, if you're currently using this protocol and it's changed your life, go ahead and feel free to put in the chat what it's done for you. But let's take a look at what this is really causing, not just in America, but around the world. Now, insulin resistance is now being shown to occur in 93% of Americans, with 8 out of 10 having no idea. I was one of them that nearly killed me. I think I missed one day in 18 years of practice from being sick, and I had food poisoning. So I never missed. And it was just, I was like, well, how could this happen? And I had the belly fat, I had skin tags, I had inflammation, my cholesterol panel was starting to go up, I had developed sleep apnea, God bless my wife. I mean, I didn't even believe it. She would record it and let me hear it, right? How many of you ladies have ever done that to your husband, right? I had sugar cravings and salty cravings, constant cravings. I didn't realize how much food was controlling my life. Now, all of these are signs of insulin resistance. And this is a $9+ trillion wheel I call of torture. And you can have insulin resistance for 15 to 20 years. Now, it starts to show up in ways like you start to get arthritic joint pain. You start to crave food. You're peeing all day long. You're waking up at night to pee. You know, your blurred vision, all these, neuropathy. I mean, I used to treat God knows how many cases a week of neuropathy. Migraines, same thing. In Alzheimer's, dementia. And once you develop type 2 diabetes and 15 to 20 years of having all these other signs, you finally lose blood sugar control. And now you've just increased your cardiovascular risk by 80%. I mean, how many people out there know people struggling with diabetes? Do you know 10 people? If you know 10 people struggling with diabetes, cardiovascular disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or weight control, just put 10 in the chat. And I had so many of these things. It increases Alzheimer's dementia by 81%. So I saw this complete necessary need. And as Moses said in the Bible, I give you a blessing, I give you a curse. So there has to be, for there to be a business, there's got to be a problem. And there's a huge one. And it's not just an American problem. This is around the globe. Now, our company years ago figured out, well, wait a minute. In the 60s, they started taking fiber out of the food, but they added modified food starch back into the food, which spikes blood sugar higher than table sugar. So our company back in the 80s, well, they came out with statins, statin drugs. How many of you know people on statins and blood pressure meds, right? And so this company said, well, wait a minute. If they took the fiber out, which is what feeds the gut, which keeps you healthy, let's just put the fiber back in. So they created a patented blend we're going to talk about, 2 products that are both patented. But when I saw this as a doctor, I was like, my God, this is in the PDR.net. This is where doctors prescribe drugs from. I was like, man, I can get behind this. I can share this with other people, right? And it's also got 20+ clinical studies done at University of Sydney that they did the glycemic index. They know more about sugar than anyone. It's been studied at the Cleveland Clinic, the #1 heart institute on the planet. And we're going to explain why. It's been studied at BYU, ongoing, UNLV, UCLA, just to name a few. It's also health savings account and financial savings account known as HSAs and FSA account qualified. These are nutraceuticals. These products are standardized and they're all third party tested. If you see here this number, that lets you know that these have been third party tested from an outside source
This is what he's
for
talking about right here.
herbicides, pesticides, mold, mildew, bacteria, and carcinogens, cancer causing agents. We're in over 60 countries around the globe. We're patented and we guarantee it works so well. They've now got a new app that helps people track their progress. And if they track this progress for 50% of the usage, they have a 90-day money back guarantee. If they're not happy, they can get their money back. So when I saw this blew my mind. A little over $5 a day. It's less than breakfast. It's about the price of a cup of coffee. And what you do, here's the protocol. Instead of waking up and eating breakfast within 30 minutes,
We're going to
of
go
waking
into this a
up,
little
and
bit
do
more
these companies
detail
out there
right
make
after
money when
this.
you eat or when you don't eat? Do they make money when you inject or don't inject? Right? And so the company that taught you the most important meal of your day back in the 70s, feel free to put that in the chat. That word break fast means breakfast means break fast. And you can do that at lunch. So here's how we do the protocol. You wake up and you use this chlorogenic acid tea known as Unimate. And this right here acts like a natural metformin. It keeps blood sugar and insulin nice and stable. And when you keep blood sugar low, you keep insulin low. And when insulin's low, remember this, fat's got to go. So you start eating body fat for fuel. When you get to lunch and you eat, you can see the spike. That's going to cause a spike in blood sugar. Anytime you eat, you spike your blood sugar, which spikes insulin. So as soon as you eat and bring this back down, we're going to use the second T in this protocol to get control of your cravings. I'm not sure about you, but I used to have terrible issues with craving food. I mean, if I made pancakes for my daughter, I had to lick the bowl. That's a meal. I mean, if I saw a piece of pizza, Shailene, I thought I had to have the whole pizza. I thought the whole pizza was that was whole food, right? And I couldn't stop. This stuff just crushes the food noise. And if you're using this and it's helped you control your cravings, put controlled cravings or cravings gone in the chat. Now, when you get to the largest meal of the day, that might be, dinner, you're going to use this fiber matrix. Now, this fiber matrix, what it's going to do, it's going to it's been studied at the Cleveland Clinic, and it's proven to bring down your blood sugar spikes by up to 43%, nearly half. Now, ask any diabetic this. If they produce less blood sugar, they need less insulin, don't you? And so it also brings down triglycerides. Nothing on the planet does that. It brings down LDL and it brings down your A1C by 3%. Metformin's about 1%, and metformin has a black box warning. So that's the protocol, and it pays for itself. Money using this protocol, feel free to put a $ in the chat. Now, if you've got a business, there's always competition. This is the competition. And every one of these come with crazy side effects. Statins, you can look all this up in the PDR.net. These things are linked to anything to memory loss, which is dementia, diabetes, insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, liver cirrhosis. The list goes on and on. Don't trust me, go look it up in the PDR.net. Metformin has a box warning. They used to call it black box, but that means death, which is actually what that can cause. And the T acts just like these two right here, by the way. Ozempic, there's a box warning with those. And this acts like and stimulates 70% increase in your GLP-1 naturally. And I don't know anybody that wants to sign up for a surgery. So that is what they say is our competition.
Started, and we're hearing just a little bit about that. That's a huge issue. So insulin resistance, and Dr. Kenny asked a great question. If you know 10 people that have diabetes or pre-diabetes, type 10 in the comments. Just right over there in the section, just type 10. If you know people that are dealing with diabetes, because that is the root of insulin resistance. So as we go into this, I want to jump in here and tackle this a little bit more in depth, a little bit more in detail. So those of y'all that are coming in, we want to look at what is it that we are talking about. This is Healthy Together and Feeling Great. I'm Coach Ken, nutrition coach that focuses on helping people reverse insulin resistance and giving the explanation as to how did we get here? What is this all about? So this is insulin resistance 101. This is really basics to what's going on. The thing that I learn over and over again, it seems, is that we're not getting a good explanation of what this is and what we're dealing with. So as we're going through this today and we have this, we want to look at some of the different issues. One of the biggest issues that we have today is right here in front of us, and that is insulin resistance. And the issues that we're facing are some that are incredibly small. We don't even realize that maybe you've got skin tags. If you've got skin tags, you've got one of the first signs of insulin resistance. Maybe you've got some brown spots around your skin. You got in the folds of your skin in places that you're like, man, I've washed that. I should be clean, right? And I come at this as a nutrition coach that isn't speaking out of, oh, this is what you should do. This is somebody who's done it. And we'll see that in just a second. But this is the number one issue that we're facing today. And as we look at this, a lot of times when we think about insulin, we think about diabetes, right? Well, here's the thing. Why we get sick is insulin resistance. And we're going to talk about how did that happen? What is insulin resistance? How do we get here? And what are we going to do about it? Well, insulin resistance has to do with the fact that we have cells that are full. And because they're full of all of the fat, all of the sugar that's been converted into fat, you can sit there and see up here that we are dealing with an incredibly difficult issue that is impacting 93% of us in the world. Now, a normal person, we just consume and we would eat and everything would be converted and put it right into our cells. Insulin is the anabolic hormone that makes that happen. That's exactly what it does. But when we are insulin resistant, we have so much sugar built up into our blood and the fat cells that they're too full and they're no longer responsive to the insulin and the sugar in our body. So it just dumps into our bloodstream, and that leads to inflammation. Now, most of the time we think about diabetes. Insulin resistance in over half the population leads to diabetes. So what exactly is diabetes? Well, it is insulin resistance. I call it insulin resistance on steroids. Now, there's a huge difference that you'll see on the slide between, I know it's kind of small, between looking at insulin resistance as it relates to type 1 diabetes are people that they're not insulin resistant because their body's not even making insulin. They need insulin in order to survive. So that's a huge difference, right? That's a big, big difference that we understand is going on. Now, when it comes to prediabetes, we're in those early stages, and we can look at our blood work and we see the early stages of that as we kind of move through the process. Then we look at your body is at a place that it's easier to reverse. The damage has not been done. But then we move into full-blown diabetes, and now we start to see damage overall that has been increasing year by year, every single year that we've been alive, right? So we are dealing with the overall effects of what that means for us, and what are we going to do about it? How is that going to impact us? How can we impact our lives, and what are we going to do when we have to deal with this condition that has been really disrupting everything about our lives? We go back to looking at things like skin tags. We also look at things like low testosterone. We're talking about quality of life issues that our doctors are not talking to us about, right? Quality of life issues that affect marriages, that affect lifestyles, that affect how we have relationships. All of that goes into play when we are dealing with type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. And what we're not having anybody telling us is the reality that this leads to the number one reason why people are getting amputations. Now, like I said, this is real for me. This is not something new. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, but I was seeing the signs for many years before that ever came along and that ever happened. So, what did it do? Well, how do we even get there? Well, it has to do with our food system. It has to do with how we eat and drink. So, when we look at this next slide, how are you eating is the big question, because there's four that I ask all the time. So, how are you eating? Well, most of us, we eat between 3 to 6 meals a day. We're eating all the time. All the time we're eating, and every time we eat, our blood sugar is going to spike. That's what this next slide shows us. And we're going to toggle back and forth here just a little bit. Every time we eat in this modern diet dilemma, our blood sugar spikes and our insulin increases, trying to keep it down. That's what we see in this. That orange line is insulin trying to push it back down. All right. And we're sitting there going, what are we doing here? Well, why is that the problem? Well, the problem is right here. The problem is the fact that we have fiber taken out of our food. Fiber is not in our food. And we've got to address this. Hello, what's going on? What happened? Why is fiber not in our food anymore? Well, our food companies decided, hey, we could make things hyper palatable. We could make it so that people would want to crave more food. I mean, we've got to have our Mountain Dew. I bring this up. I got to have my Dew. I got to have my Dr. Pepper. Okay. That's not helping us. That's not helping us. Now, I know we love it, but that dilemma has led to this epidemic. Now, when we look at what's happened, we see that here recently, we just flipped over the food pyramid, right? I call it a food funnel. We've really gone from one to the other and recognized what has been the biggest issue in our lives has been the fact that we are not getting what we need. We are not getting the foods that we need. We are not getting the nutrients that we need. And this is what's leading to the issue of insulin resistance, is not eating correctly. We've had so many carbs. I want you to think about this for a second. As you go to the restaurant, you go to the Mexican restaurant, you go to the steakhouse, what do they bring you first? Type in the comments down below. Type in, what do they bring you first? One is a nice big fluffy one, one is nice crispy. They both kind of come in this golden yellow color, right? So that's really an impact when it comes to it. So we want to address that. So how do we do that? Well, we change the order that we eat. Now that may seem, really? We're going to change the order that we eat. What are you even talking about, Ken? What would that order even look like at this point? Well, here's what we're going to do. We look at the studies that show UCLA, the Ohio State, the CDC even says, look, you change the order that you eat, you change what's happening with your blood sugar. You're going to change the issues that you're facing with insulin resistance simply by changing the order of the way that you eat. So if we start with fiber, then we go to proteins and fats, we change that blood sugar level. We get a hold of it. We take control of our lives. You take control of your life. You get to be the hero of your story by changing and learning how we actually do this. This isn't something made up. This is something that science says. So when we change how we eat, it looks like this. All right. We start to look at that order that we eat and changing how we eat. So we start with fibrous veggies first. So you get a salad, you hold on and you put carbs last. You next want to get those proteins and those healthy fats in the meal when you're eating. The second thing we want to do is we want to just stop eating all the time. If there's one thing that's caused more problems than anything else, it's eating all the time. So I throw out this question. How many meals a day were you taught to eat? And that's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate question. People have been taught so many different things. I was taught to eat 3 meals a day. Then it became 3 meals a day and 2 healthy snacks. Today, we've been taught to eat 6 meals a day. Type in the comment, was it 3 or 6? Just kind of put that in the comments. Let me know what it was that you were taught to eat and where you're at. We've got to stop. Now, it's going to be intimidating, but we're going to talk the tools that we can help do with this. But go to eating 2 meals a day. That's what we call intermittent fasting or time-based eating. Now, you're going to see, I know there's a lot of people that are calorie restrictions. You got it, just calorie restrictions. But if you'll see in the chart up there, that orange line is how your insulin levels drop compared to calorie restrictions. Now, it's not a huge difference, but it is a significant one. That when we go to eating 2 meals a day, you move yourself into a place of calorie restrictions. You're going to naturally do that. But now we're going to use our hormones. And so, what the ideal thing to do is to get to a place in our eating where we find ourselves not eating all the time and we eat within a particular window. And if you eat with meal sequencing, you're going to eat until you're full. Look, I'm a redneck from down south. Okay. I like my fried chicken, my fried catfish, and don't get between me and my mama's banana pudding. And the fact of the matter is, my wife, Dr. G, is from New Orleans. She can cook the lights out of anything. So we don't tolerate bad food. This is not a weird diet craze of some kind. This is science. And that's what we base everything in here. So, how many of y'all have tried intermittent fasting? If you've done intermittent fasting, type IF in the comments, all right? Or fast. Let me know if you've done it, if it was hard for you, and we'll talk honestly about it. I know for me, when I first did intermittent fasting, it was tough. It was tough. I did it the first time a doctor told me I needed to lose weight, and it sucked. I couldn't sustain it because there was no teaching or guidance given as to what we needed to do. So when we do intermittent fasting, we want to always eat until we're full. And we need to know that when we eat fibers, fats, and proteins, it slows digestion. There's not a need for medications to do that. When we eat that way, our bodies will stimulate our bodies to make GLP-1. Here's a question. How many of y'all have heard of GLP-1? And if you've heard of GLP-1, type yes. If you've never, type no. But did your doctor tell you that your body made GLP-1? Now, this is not, please understand, I'm not, if you're on a GLP-1 medication, this is not to shame anybody. This is just to have the conversation. Did your doctor tell you that your body makes GLP-1? Glucagon-like peptide is a catabolic hormone made in your small intestines. And it signals to the brain through an incretin action that you're full. When we eat simple carbohydrates, when we focus in that area, our bodies don't get that signal. The bodies do not get that signal. The brain's going, do we need to eat some more? Not really sure. So when we start to do intermittent fasting, we start to bring down those insulin levels. All right. When we bring down those insulin levels, our bodies take a break. Our pancreas take a rest. It's not pumping it out all the time. In addition to that, we've got our blood sugar down. Now, it takes about 4 hours for blood sugar to come down. It takes about 10 to 12 hours for insulin to get back down. So an ideal time to fast is to combine it with your sleep schedule. So what I like to do is think about stop eating around 8 o'clock at night, and I don't eat again until 8 o'clock the next day. I just hit a period of 12 hours of fasting. Makes it a little bit easier, right? Sounds a little bit easier, and we don't really think, oh, I fasted. Now, what's going to happen is our bodies are going to switch. If we start delaying when we eat, right? We don't listen to Kellogg's that says we need to breakfast or break fast first thing in the morning. We delay that. And when we delay that, our body's human growth hormones increase. We move to, if we get to 16 hours, our bodies hit autophagy and we make stem cells. So we begin to rejuvenate our body. Our bodies switch over from burning sugar to burning ketones, which is a preferred source for the brain and the body. The sugar that you need will be made by your body through the process of gluconeogenesis. So the things that we really need, our bodies want to get to. Now, there's a number of different ways that you can do intermittent fasting. So just kind of a chart about 6 different types of intermittent fasting. I've circled the one protocol we do. Most people find that a 16 and 8 is an easy way to do it. Some people will fast 2 days of the week and will eat 5 days of the week. You can do spontaneous meal skipping. That's not my favorite. I will just be real honest there. You can see the different ones. The warrior diet is kind of the way I think I prefer to do. I actually do what it's called, I call it a 22 and 2. And so I will fast for 22 hours and then graze for a 2 hour period, which is enjoyable because my wife and I get to cook together. We kind of, start and we snack along, and I get my hand smacked because I eat the cheese, or we're making bacon and I grab a piece and I'm told, stop doing that. You get what I'm talking about? So that's a big part of it. So this is the approach to eating to reverse insulin resistance. Now, I'm going to share some tools here in a minute that are going to make this a lot easier. But that's the first question I always ask. How are you eating? The second thing that we want to think about is, how are you exercising? Now, that's a simple question to ask. It shouldn't be overwhelming, but it's one that I want to throw out to you because it is very important that how we are exercising, our muscles use sugar more than anything. All right. Our muscles are using that sugar more than anything. What is your favorite type of exercising? If you've never done that, what would be your favorite way to exercise? You may like to hike. Thank y'all so much for coming in. Welcome in. If you are coming in for the first time, type where you're coming in from. I'm Ken. I'm the nutrition coach that helps people learning to reverse insulin resistance. So we've gone from talking how are you eating to how are you exercising. So anything works. The key is that movement helps to control blood sugar. Now, I've got a number of shorts that are about simple exercises that you can do. But we want to think about, after eating, exercising for about 10 to 20 minutes after a meal. Now, I like this picture because, look, you don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be LeBron James. You don't have to be a superstar athlete. You don't have to be Ronaldo, okay? You don't have to be Messi, all right? You don't have to be any of those folks. You just need to start walking. That can be the simplest thing to do. House chores, cleaning the house. Nobody necessarily likes that. Yard work. Now, if you're piled up with snow right now, we're not doing any yard work here in Alaska. That's not happening. We are shoveling snow, so I'm getting that workout in. Just walk inside, get a playlist, dance around, just take a stroll. I'm going to be doing more on this, but the key is to start moving. Start moving. Muscle is a good thing. Resistance bands are a great thing, even body resistance. So we can think about doing push-ups or planks or even wall planks. All great options to consider, okay? So that we want to put on the list as well. So how are you moving? Now that's key. Now the next thing I want to talk about is something that's kind of out there is, what are your extras? Now this is one that kind of throws people, right? When we are doing intermittent fasting, when we are dealing with meal sequencing, when we're dealing with insulin resistance, there's a lot of extras that get thrown at us between medications and vitamins. What are we doing? What are we choosing to do? How are we approaching that? Now, this is not medical advice. I want you to understand this is a nutrition coach. So what I approach things with is natural and with food, and that's how I approach things. Now, my wife, Dr. G, is a medical provider, so she talks more about this really than I do. But one of the big things that we face for many of us is something called the pharma loop. And one of those extras is, of course, medication for dealing with insulin resistance. And that loop, that process that you see right up there, typically we start on medications because the standard pathophysiology of our day in our medical system is to treat everything, not to focus on the root, but to focus on the symptom. And we treat symptoms with medications. Now, I know that there's always debate about this. Medications are not always the answer, and they're not always treating the root. They're more like a Band-Aid. And with most of them, they come up with side effects. And when we look at the side effects, we see things like metformin has a box warning when you go to the provider's digital reference because it can, as a side effect, cause loss of life. When we look at acid reflux, esomeprazole, that actually is a medication for acid reflux that will, over time, contribute to type 2 diabetes. I know that because it happened to me. I know wherever you're at on here, you may recognize this. And if you do, type in the comment, yes, this is me, or you know somebody that's dealing with that. All right. So we have this incredible book. All right. Most doctors, you see it right up there, that PDR.net, the provider's digital reference, is a big, thick book. It's actually a website as well for doctors to go and learn more. Now, one of the things that we do is we use a product called the Feel Great system. That has been our solution to reversing insulin resistance in our lives and the clients that we work with. So it is something that has been researched and studied. It's in the PDR.net. It is the only thing that's setting in the PDR.net alongside these pharmaceuticals that addresses insulin resistance. It's a two-part process. It's a protocol that combines meal sequencing, focusing on fiber, and intermittent fasting and the benefits. So it has over 20 clinical studies. It's HSA and FSA qualified. It is a nutraceutical, not a pharmaceutical, because it's all plant-based. It's in over 60 countries around the world. All right. And basically, what's going to happen is you drink on the balance, which is the fiber. It's a matrix of 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers. All right. It's not Metamucil. Metamucil is not even in the PDR.net. All right. So we're talking about plant fibers, and we're talking about something that was studied at the Cleveland Clinic to work like a lipid lowering medication. We're talking about something that was studied at the University of Sydney that lowers your postprandial glucose spike up to 43%. So it's working as a fiber, and that's the key part of this. It deals with what fiber deals with, and it's easy to do in our life and what we do. Now, the other part of this is the Unimate. Unimate is a tea. It's from the yerba mate plant that's in South America. So this is all food and drink. So this is our extras. This is where we kind of approach how we do things, because the studies back this up. That in a fasted state, you're going to knock down those food cravings. That's a huge part of it, is you knock down those food cravings up to 60 to 70% in a fasted state. That's what chlorogenic acid does. It gives you the energy throughout the course of the day. It gives you great energy with theobromine. It helps to clean up that brain fog. It helps with the blood pressure. It's probably the best drink on the planet that has been proven, like I said, that is in the PDR.net. And so what we look at is we jump on this and we drink this every day. In fact, I started my day with a very simple sip. It is 5:25 up here in Alaska. So there you go. There's my sip, knocking down those food cravings that I have. So it fits right into the lifestyle of meal sequencing and intermittent fasting. And if insulin resistance is what you are trying to reverse, if it's diabetes, this is a condition that relates to our lives, who we are, where we're at. Now, the fourth question that I always ask every day to help people is, who are you encouraging? Who are you encouraging? And this is my attempt, and I hope that it has been, those of y'all that have been here, who are you encouraging? You can have everything. Oh, it didn't pop up over here. You can have everything that in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. From Zig Ziglar. It's a great quote. And I want you to think about the message that's here. Just start to think about it. How can you help other people? That's why I get on here and do what I do. I don't have to do this. I want to help people. And a big part of this is because this has helped me as somebody who was diagnosed with diabetes. My wife was diagnosed pre-diabetes right after I was. So this is the reality. So in October of 2024, you can see the difference between in this journey that we have been on to get where we're at. Neuropathy, fibromyalgia, migraines. I was at a loss. I didn't know what to do. Dr. G was the one that got on the phone and called a friend who was a nurse and a diabetes educator and said, hey, you guys need to start this. This is a natural protocol. And you can see the difference that it made in our lives. You can see how it impacted us. And I'm here talking about this because that's exactly what it did. All right. So, and it's not just us. We've got a whole mess of testimonials that go right after this, that there's others that this has impacted their lives too. It doesn't rest with, all right? It's to make. How will you reverse insulin resistance? I've given the tools today, and I want to invite you. If you would like to reach out, you can scan that code right there or the one up there at the top. Either one of them would love to be able to work with you and help you on this journey as you seek to reverse your insulin resistance and to address diabetes in a very real and practical way. There's not any questions. It's been pretty quiet out there. Hope you're having an awesome one. I'm going to drop this off real quick and we're going to close out that presentation and remove that and wrap up. Is there any questions that anybody's got as we come to a close today as it relates to insulin resistance, nutrition, exercise, any of those things that you might be impacted with? All right. There's a little bit of delay sometimes, and never know where folks are coming in from. So thanks so much for being here. It's been great having you on today. And those of y'all, if you need to message me, you can use that too. That is my link tree. If you're interested in the Feel Great system, I can put that up as well. Actually, that code right there, I believe, if you would like to start on the Feel Great system to work with Dr. G and I as coaches, that's where to go. Thanks so much for being here. Go get the day, make it golden, go be excellent to others, and go be excellent to yourself.